time. Here we are. We finally made it to electric guitars, which I'm really excited about. And we definitely have our work cut out for us because I think we have 13 individual guitar tracks, which is sick. We've got a lot going on. This will showcase such a wide variety of tones and EQ issues that need fixing and things like that. That also just kind of leads me to a quick general point I want to mention about electric guitars. With electric guitars, there is just such a wide range of tones and styles. There's just no one way that an electric guitar sounds. So this is especially an area in which when you are mixing, whether it's your music or someone else's music, it's just essential that you continue to develop a strong critical ear, because there's just so few consistent rules with electric guitar. There are rules with kick drum and bass guitar and acoustic guitar. There are rules. You can kind of in general have a consistent game plan. That's just not the case with electric guitars. Electric guitars, every single electric guitar track I have ever mixed sounds completely different. Mic placement relative to the amp makes a huge difference. The guitar makes a huge difference. What pedals the guitarist is using makes a massive difference. Whether they're using an amp simulator makes a massive difference. How this particular guitar track is intended, what purpose is it serving within the context of the song? Is it a guitar solo? Is it a light, clean rhythm guitar? Are we mixing a heavy metal song and it's just the star of the show and we have to mix this wall of sound with these guitars? The margin of error is just massive. So point being, electric guitars in particular, it's just a wild west, and it's essential that, like I said, you can continue to develop your critical listening skills and just get your game face on when you're thinking about electric guitars. Ask yourself the tough questions. Don't worry about how have I treated electric guitars in the past. Every time it's a new slate. Every time we're just we're going to forget what we did in the last time and we're going to focus on what am I actually hearing right now and what does this song need and what is the electric guitar trying to do? What are we trying to achieve here? So that's my spiel. That's my spiel about electric guitars. With all of that in mind, let's dive into electric guitars. On this video, we are going to tackle our first 3 electric guitar tracks. We've got guitar fills, intro crunch, and freeze. So that will all make more sense as we continue on. Let's start with our very first one. Start at the top. Guitar fills here. Let's just hear this guitar fill moment in the context of the song. I've selected this specific moment because I feel like it's kind of representative of the entire track as a whole. So we're going to spend our time here. Let's hear it. Okay, so as you can see, and hopefully as you can hear, this electric guitar is just way overpowering in the low mids. It is taking up way too much space in that area and not nearly enough space in the attack, the high-end presence. This track is never intended to be the star of the show. We're just filling it. We're literally using the guitar to fill space. So with that in mind, we don't want this to be the spotlight, and yet it is, because the low mid-range is just so overpowering. So that brings us to our first giant cut here. Let's solo this low mid-range that I'm talking about. Let's turn on this. Great. Immediately better, totally solves our problem here. We're gonna also add in this high boost. Let's hear this frequency range in isolation. Cool, and we're just gonna give this a subtle boost just because I want to emphasize that high-end attack there. So, and then finally, we're just gonna close it out by adding a high-pass filter. You know what, you love it. We don't need anything with this electric guitar track below 100, so we're gonna kill it. So let's kill it. Bam, engaged. What a dramatic difference. This one, we really tore this one up. Oh man. man, it just kind of fits right where it's supposed to. We're no longer like stealing the show. We're just providing a nice texture in the background. Work. Feeling way better about that. Let's move on to our next guitar track, which is Intro Crunch. Intro Crunch. Let's hear this part in the context of the song. Cool, great. So this actually is kind of dealing with the same issues that we dealt with in the last track. Way overpowering, low mid-range, not enough presence in the high attack space. So we're going to kind of just rinse and repeat here a little bit. It's funny, I started this video by being like, there's no template, there's no specific way, consistent way to deal with guitars. That's just how it goes sometimes, I guess. That's what we got to work with. So let's solo this low band, see what we're gonna cut. Cool, let's engage this band. Awesome, already a million times better. And then let's turn on this giant high boost that I made. We can solo this frequency. Yeah, sick, great. That's like all of our attack, all of our air. Ooh, wow, sounds like a guitar now. Okay, and then finally we're gonna turn on our low pass. Bro, it's like a underwater fish singing its song. Oh, now it's a crispy guitar. This just sounds great. Yeah, I want to pause here and just say again, like, it just kills me sometimes when people online are sharing EQ advice. I just feel like I see all the time people going like, I don't know, man, like, make sure, like, when you're EQing, like, you never cut or boost more than like 3 dB. I just so aggressively cut and boosted this track. Like, I just cut by like 12 dB and then boosted the high attack by like 10 dB, and it like slams. Like, the lesson being, of course, like the 3 dB rule. Like, I don't know where that came from. Oh, excuse me, I guess I'm at the road. You just watched me like push and pull these giant levers. I just made like massive adjustments, and I don't know about you, like, you might feel differently. I feel like that just sounds like a million times better, a million times cleaner. So just don't be afraid to like really twist the knobs as much as you need to twist them. Like, don't worry about it. Just get aggressive. Get aggressive until you get the sound and you get the result that you're going for. Forget this like 3 dB rule. That is like so whack. I feel like that like hurts people's growth and progress. I should fight people online. Let's say that. No, I shouldn't do that. That's not my personality. I'm not going to fight anybody online. All right, here we go. We got to move on here. Okay, great. Let's jump to our freeze track. Now, what is a freeze track, you might say? It's this. I don't know exactly why it's called freeze. The track was sent to me by the recording engineer and it was labeled freeze, so that's what we're going with. This entire track is just this little isolated highlight. Bring. So let's solo it again and look under the hood. First things first, I'm sure you're able to also hear, but in this dry guitar part, we have a significant amount of high-end buzz and hum in the recording itself. That could just be like amp noise or amp noise. I think it's just amp noise. So we've got a lot of amp noise. We don't need any of that. We're going to apply a low-pass filter at about 10K and just clean that up, make it a little less harsh. Let's engage that. Great. Simple adjustment, cleaned it up. Let's look at this giant high mid-range and high cut that I made super wide. I'm going to solo this so we can hear what this is. Yeah, really brittle, really thin, really harsh. And I'm choosing to cut it. Let's hear what that sounds like. Great, sounds good. And then just to complete the thought, let's look at this other boost I made and solo that frequency. Cool, and then engage that. Okay, cool. Let's just kind of keep this rolling, and I'll kind of recap as we get finished here. We've engaged our low pass filter. And then now that we have made all of those adjustments, I'm going to bypass it, and then we can kind of flip back and forth. Wow, originally it was very bright, very harsh. And now what I have done, cool. It feels, to me, more warm and smooth, not nearly as bright, not nearly as harsh on top. So before I make my final point, I think it's worthwhile to hear this in context. Okay, great. So there's a couple things to mention about this. So I made the adjustments that I made because I didn't want this moment, I didn't want this highlight to feel as harsh and as bright as it did. I wanted it to feel a little bit more smooth on top and a little bit warm and full on the bottom. So it didn't poke out so much, and it kind of blended in a little bit more, contributed to a feeling of fullness and warmth. But I think that there is a case to be made for kind of just leaving it as it is, because I think the track as it stands dry really is not all that offensive. And I do think that it is within the margin of error. I think it's within reasonable bounds of, like, depending on who you are as an artist, as a producer, what the final vision is of this artist, in particular, especially for this moment. Like, if the songwriter wants like this harsh kind of in your face feeling, like, hey, look alive, dork, like that feeling, you can leave it as it is, and it's already doing that job. But I do just want to clarify and say that this is a great example of a treatment that I think is pretty subjective. I think the next engineer might not do the same thing. You might not have treated this guitar part the same way, but you're not the one who's mixing the song. I am. So that's what I did. So that is it. I think this has already been a little bit of a longer video than I realized it was going to be, but that's okay. We got a lot done. So this is a great way to kick off guitars. I'm super excited to continue to move on with the rest of our guitars. So I'll see you in the next video.